You have scrubbed that black corner 3 times this year, and it keeps coming back. You were never fighting mold. You were fighting water and still air. So here is the plan. First, the corners where mold shows up, the shower seam, the cold window, the back of the closet, and why every fix you have tried keeps failing, the baking soda trick included. Then, the Japanese principle that keeps it gone for good. Removing it is easy. The skill is keeping that corner clear without thinking about it, and that takes an idea, not a product. Start with the corner almost everyone has, the seam where the wall meets the tub or the shower tray, that soft white line of caulk, and creeping up out of it a fine black speckling, sometimes spreading back into the grout between the tiles. You wipe it, it fades. A couple of weeks later, it is back, in the same line, following the same seam. The natural assumption is that it is dirt, that you have not scrubbed hard enough, and if you just found a stronger product, it would finally come off and stay off. But look at where it grows. It grows in the one spot in the whole bathroom that never gets a chance to dry. Every time you shower, water runs down the tiles and pools in that seam, and the caulk holds a thin film of it long after the walls look dry to you. The room feels dry. That seam is still damp hours later. It is not growing there because it is dirty. It is growing there because it is wet, over and over, with no time in between to dry out. The everyday Japanese word for this stuff is kabi, and the whole approach to it starts from that one observation: damp surface, still air, and time. That is the recipe, and taking away any one of the 3 makes the recipe fail. So the fix is not a better cleaner. The fix is to take the water away before it can sit. After the last person showers, you spend about 30 seconds wiping that seam and the lower tiles with a small squeegee or an old towel, and you leave the door open so the air moves through instead of hanging there warm and wet. That is it. You are not attacking the mold. You are removing the puddle it needs to live. Do that, and the corner that used to need scrubbing every couple of weeks simply stays clear. The musty smell that lived in that end of the room goes with it. It costs you a cheap wiper and half a minute a day against a product you were rebuying all year for a corner that never actually stayed clean. One quick thing before the next one. I am curious which corner is the one in your house: the shower seam, the window, the back of a closet. Tell me in the comments. I read them, and it tells me what to cover next. Now let me say something clearly about baking soda and vinegar, because the internet is full of bad advice on this one. You have seen the trick. Baking soda in the corner, a good splash of vinegar over the top, and you stand there while it foams up like a little volcano. It feels like something is finally working. It feels like the foam is eating the mold. What is actually happening is simpler and a lot less impressive. Baking soda is a base. Vinegar is an acid. The moment you combine them, they react and neutralize each other, and all that dramatic fizzing is the sound of the 2 ingredients canceling out. What you are left with once the bubbles stop is mostly water, a little dissolved salt, and some gas that floated off into the air. A chemist would tell you that you have basically made salty water and then scrubbed your wall with it. The show is real. The cleaning is not. And the part that matters even more. Suppose you skip the mixing and use just one of them the way it actually works. Say the black lifts and the surface looks clean. You still have not touched the reason it grew. The damp is still there. The still air is still there. You have wiped away this month's mold and left next month's conditions completely intact. Bleach is the same story. It can lighten the color until the stain looks gone, but it changes how the corner looks, not how the corner behaves. So honestly, skip the fizzing trick. Vinegar and baking soda are fine cleaners in their own right. They are simply the wrong tool for this job, because you cannot outscrub a wet corner. You can only stop it being wet. And one promise before we go on. I am not about to send you off to buy some special product for any of this. There is nothing to purchase here. That is sort of the entire point of the channel. Cheap principles over expensive products, and I will not bring it up again. Next, the window and the wall behind your furniture. You find mold along the bottom of the window frame in the top corner where 2 outside walls meet, or, when you finally pull the bed away to clean, a bloom of it across the plaster behind the headboard where you never see it. The first thought is always a leak. Water getting in from outside, a pipe in the wall, something structural and expensive. Usually, it is nothing of the kind. What you are looking at is condensation. The Japanese word is kitsuro, and it describes exactly what happens on the outside of a cold glass of water on a summer day. Warm air in your room holds a lot of moisture. When that warm, damp air touches a cold surface, an exterior wall in winter, a single pane window, the plaster behind a bed that blocks all the airflow. The moisture drops out of the air and settles as a fine film of water. A cold surface with a film of water on it, sitting in still air day after day, is a perfect little patch of weather for mold. If this is helping so far, take a second to like and subscribe, and these methods keep coming your way. Now, the fix. You do two things. First, deal with the water. In the colder months, when you find that fog gathered on the glass or the frame in the morning, wipe it off. 10 seconds before it has all day to feed the corner. Second, and this is the one people miss, get the air moving over those cold surfaces. Pull furniture a hand's width off any exterior wall so air passes behind it instead of trapping a pocket of damp against cold plaster. Crack a window for a few minutes when you can. You are not heating the house harder or buying a machine. You are letting the room breathe so the moisture has somewhere to go besides the wall. The frame that used to grow a black line every winter stays dry. The patch behind the bed stops coming back. And you have spent nothing but a cloth and a little attention. Next, for the quiet one, the closet, the cupboard under the sink, the back of a wardrobe, the boxes in the corner of a spare room. You open the door after a while away and it hits you before you see anything, that flat, musty smell, and then there it is, speckled along the back wall or under a shelf. This is the one people are most ashamed of, because it feels like proof the space is dirty. It usually is not about dirt at all. It is about air that never moves. An enclosed space with the door shut most of the time has no airflow, and without airflow, whatever moisture is in there just sits. The Japanese have a word for the thing these spaces lack: kazetchi, the quality of air being able to pass freely through a space. A closet has almost none of it. So any damp that gets in, from the wall, from clothes that went away not quite dry, from the humidity of the whole house, has nowhere to go. It settles, and the still, closed air lets the mold take hold in peace. 2 moves again. Let the air in and pull the moisture out. Leave closet doors ajar when you can, and lift stored things off the floor and an inch off the back wall so air can circulate instead of pressing them flat against cold plaster. Then, for the damp itself, the traditional Japanese answer is charcoal. Not the barbecue kind, but hard benchoten charcoal, which Japanese households have long tucked into cupboards and drawers to draw moisture and musty odor out of the air. A piece or two in a closet steadily pulls the damp down, and every few weeks you set it in the sun to dry and it goes back to work. You have to be honest about what charcoal does. It is a helper that keeps a small space drier, not a magic stone, but drier is the whole game. Do it, and the smell fades first, within days, and the speckling stops returning. A couple of pieces of charcoal and an inch of breathing room against a closet you are emptying and scrubbing every season. Now we get to the part that actually deserves the word Japanese, and the part that earns the phrase for good. Look back at those 4 corners, the shower seam, the window, the wall, the closet, and notice we never once talked about killing anything. We talked about water and air, every single time. That is the whole secret, sitting in plain sight. It's not a cleaning problem. It's a weather problem. Every one of those corners had its own little indoor climate, damp and still, and mold is simply what grows when that climate holds. You were never fighting an enemy. You were living in a season that suited it. So the principle the entire Japanese approach is built on is this, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Mold needs 3 things to establish: a damp surface, still air, and enough time. That is the whole list. And you do not have to defeat all 3. You only have to take away one, reliably, and the thing collapses. Because mold cannot grow on a surface that dries, and it cannot settle in air that keeps moving. A Japanese home is not run by scrubbing mold after it appears. It is run so the conditions never line up. Air is kept moving, and ventilation, kanki, is treated as a daily habit rather than an afterthought. Windows and doors open to let the house breathe, cross drafts used on purpose. Damp is answered while it is still a film of water on a cold morning window, not a month later when it is a stain. Nothing about it is dramatic. There is no product at the center of it. There is just a household that has long since agreed never to let a corner stay wet and still long enough for anything to move in. That is what for good actually means here. A handful of small habits that change the weather in the room so the corner stays clear whether you are thinking about it or not. No spray required, because there is never anything for a spray to do. And the deeper lesson here is not really about mold. It is about a way of thinking that runs through a lot of how these homes are kept. When something keeps coming back, no matter how hard you fight it, the fight is usually the wrong tool. What you are fighting is a symptom, and the symptom has a cause, and the cause is almost always some condition you have left in place. Chase the stain, and you chase it forever. Change the condition, and the stain has nowhere to return to. Mold is just the clearest possible example. A wet, still corner grows mold the way a cold night grows frost. You do not wipe frost off the grass and call it solved. You understand the conditions that made it. It is worth adding up what this saves you, because the arithmetic is a little absurd. The old way is the spray you rebuy every few months, the stronger spray when the first one stops working, the dehumidifier gadget somebody talked you into, and then, eventually, the real bill, recaulking a seam that rotted, repainting a ceiling that spotted, the corners that finally needed a professional. That is a cost that never ends, because none of it fixes the condition. Against that, the whole method is a small squeegee, a cloth, a cracked window, and a couple of pieces of charcoal you dry in the sun and reuse for years. Close to nothing, spent once, plus a few minutes of habit. One is a recurring bill for a problem that keeps returning. The other is a one-time handful of change for a problem that stops. So if you want to start this week, here's the whole routine, and it is short. After the last shower of the day, take 30 seconds to wipe the seam and the lower tiles, and leave the door open. On cold mornings, wipe the fog off the windows before it settles. Pull your bed and any big furniture a hand's width off the exterior walls so air can get behind them. Put a piece of charcoal in the closet and the cupboard under the sink and set it in the sun to dry every few weeks. And where you have an exhaust fan in a bathroom or kitchen, actually use it and let it run a few minutes past when you are done, doing its work quietly while you get on with the rest of your day. None of that is hard. None of it is expensive. And within a couple of weeks, the corners you used to fight will simply stop coming back. So that is the method. 4 corners, 1 idea. You were never really fighting mold. You were fighting a damp, still patch of air that let it grow. And the moment you keep that patch dry, or keep it moving, the mold has nowhere to live. Baking soda and vinegar could not fix that, and no spray can. Only the conditions can. If one of those corners is the one in your house, tell me which in the comments, and if you want more of these, the calm and cheap way that things actually last, subscribe, and I will keep them coming. But the thing I would leave you with is bigger than a tip. It is a way of seeing the problem. Once you stop asking how to remove the mold and start asking what condition keeps growing it, you have the answer to that corner, and to half the problems in a house. Change the weather in the room, and the corner takes care of itself.